Today we are making ourselves a steering wheel cover for our car. Pretty spiffy, isn't it? Hopefully I've got the right angles here so you can see it and not just my glasses. Anyway, join us, won't you? Hey, welcome to another Mumsy video. Today we are going to make a steering wheel cover for the car. If you're like my family, you like to go out a lot in the summer, out on the road, and our car's a bit older. It's a 2006 model, so it's starting to get a little bit grungy, and it's almost like it's wearing away at parts, so we're gonna cover it up with something pretty today. So let's get into what we'll need to make this. We need some worsted weight yarn. I've got a bit of this cake left, so hopefully it'll make a few different colors. My car is actually like popsicle blue, like this electric kind of blue. So I think that these blue will look really nice. You can pick 2, 3, as many colors as you want. You can stripe it if you want. It's pretty straightforward pattern, so you can make it as pretty as you want. Variegated yarn would work really great, that kind of stuff. I'm using a G 4.25 millimeter hook. It's G6 for this project, and I put it somewhere. Oh, there it is. Sewing yarn needle. That's very important for attaching it to the car. And it will need a measuring tape. Preferable to have one of these floppy ones because we're going to be measuring around the steering wheel, so we want it to bend. And unless you want to do the math, I guess you could do the math by measuring across. Oh, that's too hard. I remember that from high school, but I'm sure it's not that bad trying to get the circumference from various shapes. Anyway, also I have a notebook here just to write down measurements with a pen, scissors, that sort of thing. And yeah, I guess I will meet you out at the car so I can show you how to take the measurements you're going to need to take next. You can see the steering wheel. We're in my car. Nice Ford, but you can see, I don't know if you can see very close, but it's starting to wear away here. So what we're going to do is take a couple measurements. We're going to take one all the way around. And inches. We've got 46 inches. I'm going to write that down. 46 inches around. And one more measurement is kind of around the top here. So mine is 4.5 inches. It's a little thicker here, but you know what? It's going to stretch. So we're going to go with, let me measure that again, make sure, 4.5 inches around 4.5 inches is the smaller. Those are our two measurements. I'm going to just give you a little note on the steering wheel. If there is a big centerpiece like this, but it is filled in here, it might be difficult to follow this pattern to make it stay on. I like that there are spots on this steering wheel so I can sew it on and it'll stay in place because we don't want it rolling around as we're driving. But anyway, let's get started by going back into the house and picking up our yarn and our hook. Okay, we're back in the house. We've got our notebook here with our measurements. We've got our yarn and our G-sized hook. And we're going to attach with a slip knot here. And this is where we're going to need to use our measurements. Do you remember? The smaller of the measurements, the one around the steering wheel, like around the little part of the steering wheel. We're going to use that, but first we are going to subtract an entire inch from our measurements. So mine was 4.5 inches. I want my steering wheel cover to stretch across and fit tightly. So we're going to chain until it fits. The measurement hits 3.5 inches, which is 1 inch less than the measurement we had there. So I don't know how many chains it's going to be, and every steering wheel is going to be different. So what do we got there? Let's get our 3.5. See that? I guess I could put it in front so you could actually see it, right? So maybe, oh yeah, that's about maybe 1 chain there because there's that end. I'm just gonna put 1 more in. Now, if you don't get it exactly on the exact inches, no worries. We just want it to stretch a little bit. So now that we've chained, all we're gonna do, I'm gonna do a +1 for the extra little to count as the first HDC up, and we're going to HDC. And in every chain until the end. I told you this was a very simple pattern. So it's just HDCs. That's all we're doing all the way through, and it's going to be very similar to our pattern that we used to do a wreath. Do you remember the Christmas lights wreath that I did the tutorial for? It's very similar because we are basically covering a round object like a wreath, except it'll be a steering wheel. So there we go. So we are making it almost exactly the same. I think for that particular tutorial as well, we did HDC straight across, and we added some stripes, which you are very welcome to do as many or as little stripes as you want. You could change the colors or just use, I have a cake here that will change colors by itself, which would be really nice, but I think those striping ones would be really nice too. Any variegated one. Whatever your personality is. It's weird because it's your car, so if you have a more bold personality, then go for it. If you'd like something a little bit more conservative, a little bit more normal. I don't think it's really normal. I don't think anybody's normal, but if you want it just a little more subdued, it always would look great in a gray or a black or a tan color. There, so we've got to the end of the row there, and I'm just going to measure to make sure that I didn't make it too big. It should be 3.5 inches. About, oh, see, it stretched a little. Yeah, it's about 3.5. Good. And you'll notice it'll stretch because we want it to stretch quite a bit anyway. I crochet tightly though. So we're going to chain 1 and HDC back. And we're just going to HDC back and forth. So I've reached the end again. Chain one and turn, and we're gonna keep, it's just seeing around and around, and we're going to keep going until our piece measures that first measurement we took, the really long one for all the way around the steering wheel. Mine was 46 inches. What I want to do is make my piece a little bit less than that. I'm gonna do 2 inches shorter. I'm gonna make it 44 inches or as close as I can get it, because we really want this to stretch on there very nicely so that it stays in place and doesn't move around too much while we're driving, because that could be dangerous if it's too loose and bulky in parts. It could really affect your driving, so we don't want that. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to just probably turn on some Netflix to my favorite binging show, and just do this for the afternoon, back and forth, back and forth. Let me know in the comments what your favorite binging show is, or what show you're watching as you're doing this particular project, or possibly what music you're listening to or something. Maybe I'll discover something new. Anyway, I'll meet you back here when this gets just a little bit bigger. All right, it's a different day and a different lighting profile in here. But anyway, you can see I've got my long piece here done, and it has a couple color switches in it. I ended up making it was, remember our original steering wheel was 46 inches, and I wanted to make it smaller so that it would be a little bit tight around. I was going to make it 44 inches, but as you can see here with this yarn, I don't have much purple left, and I wasn't too keen on making the steering wheel in this gold color. So I've left it at 40 inches. Good thing this, you can see, is super stretchy, so it will definitely fit anyway. But before we fasten off, I would like to put this together, the two short ends, and we're just going to, let's hook my hook up there again. We're just going to crochet this close. So I'm going to chain one and kind of do a little crochet. If you don't want to crochet this across the edge, you can always fasten off with a really long string and then sew it together as well. I didn't bother to finish the edges along the long sides here with a stitch, because it's going to get sewn together anyway, but you could do that if you would like something easier to sew. You can just kind of SC around the edges. I'm going to leave this yarn here, the beginning yarn, just because it'll make a good spot to tie my knot after I've sewn it onto my car. And I'm going to undo a lot of this. I'm going to fasten off using, I'm going to fasten off using a really long piece here so that I can sew it on in one continuous piece. If you don't like to work with such a long piece, you don't have to fasten it off with such a long piece. You can always get more and continue to sew the steering wheel cover on. But I like to do mine all in one shot here. So I will meet you back at the car and I'll show you how to make this work. All right, we're back in the car. It had rained this morning. You might see all the droplets on the windshield there. hopefully it's light enough that you'll be able to see this. What we're going to do is stretch this over top of our steering wheel and get it in a position you like with the color changes. I kind of it doesn't really matter. My car's blue, so it's just gonna be on there like that. I think this is gonna fade anyway more than this, so keep in mind where the sun goes. And I'm gonna hook this to my yarn needle, the long thread I have here, and we are going to sew it on. This will involve some pulling and stretching because we made it smaller so that it would really stretch on there. And I want to leave, if you can see, that little bit here so I can tie it when we reach the end. In and through behind, and we can kind of weave our thread until it comes out the other side. Oops. I lost it there for a minute. This is more difficult than should be sometimes for me with these long threads. I guess it gets tricky. Anyway, then we're going to continue to sew on this side, leaving that just as it is. That's why I recommended not having one of those steering wheels, this pattern, one of those steering wheels where the whole thing is like that, because it's enough to make it, oh, my hair's in the way. It's enough to make it just a few inches, but a whole, 6 inches might be a little bit too much for this pattern. Almost back at the top here where I started. So I'm just going to put in a few more stitches. We can kind of organize it how we like. And remember, I told you to leave this piece here. Why I told you to do that is so that when we undo this, there's something to tie it to make sure that knot is tight and on there. So I'm just gonna tie it tightly a few times here. I'm gonna cut this, and then I'm just gonna hide my ends inside here. Let's see if I can do it with this hook. There, and we'll hide the end on this side because it's a different color. All right, and there we have it. Pretty spiffy. Oh, it feels so much nicer. Oh, it's going to be really nice in the winter, and you can always hide that seam a little by pushing it into the middle. And you see now why I wanted to make it so tight is because I don't want it to move around as we're driving. So I think it turned out fantastic. So I guess all that's left is to get you to like this video and to comment below. I think I asked you questions about binge watching shows. What are you watching? You can also tell me if you're doing this project. What colors did you choose? What yarns? I always like to know. You can send me off a picture too. That would be great. Subscribe and bye-bye for now.